So, got a little bit of a mock draft here. I found online. This is from CBS Sports, and just kind of wanted to talk about what I thought with the upcoming 2018 NFL Draft. So, what better way to start out a live stream? Kind of test out the live stream, see how it goes. Obviously, I'm going to rewatch it later. Feel free to chat along in the live chat. So anyway, CBS Sports, they have Josh Rosen from UCLA going number 1 overall to Cleveland. I think this is an interesting pick. I think a lot of the quarterbacks in this year's draft, Josh Rosen's one of the few that I like. I think Mayfield's not going to be the great NFL quarterback. I think Rosen has the potential to really sit back in the pocket and play an NFL style ball, because there's a lot of differences between the NFL level of football and the college level of football, which is obvious to see. And even though Rosen, ever since he's been playing at UCLA, he's often talked about wanting to get paid. College players should be paid. He's been very vocal about that, and very vocal about the money side of football, which could turn some teams some eyebrows, I guess you could say. But I think Rosen's going to be a great guy in the NFL, great quarterback. Hall of Fame level, probably not, but definitely a starter in the NFL one day, and definitely has the potential to develop into something special. So he's one of those wait and see kind of guys, and just have to go from there. So anyways, New York Giants right now have the second pick of the NFL draft, and in this mock draft they have Orlando Brown, the offensive tackle from Oklahoma, going to New York Giants. I thought this was an interesting pick. I see the Giants need a lot of help in a lot of positions. They got Eli Manning, who's a lot older. He's not got too many years left in him. The Eli Manning era is coming to an end. I thought, personally, I could see the Giants going running back in the first round, especially with the second overall pick. A lot of talk about Saquon Barkley, what he's going to do, where he's going to go. I could see Barkley fitting in at the second pick with the Giants quite well. They definitely need a running back. With every team, you need an offensive line. You need as much offensive line talent as you can get. So, obviously, Orlando Brown going second to them is an interesting pick to me. I personally don't have Orlando Brown high up on my board for offensive linemen, but I could definitely see him going second pick to the New York Giants. Interesting, but I could see the Giants drafting more skill positions instead of offensive line. But I think the Giants are under a lot of scrutiny, and they don't want to make a wrong pick, especially with how their last season went. So I think they'll probably just take the safe bet, and Orlando Brown from Oklahoma is probably the safe bet in this instance. Indianapolis Colts got the third pick of this year's draft, and Quentin Nelson is who they got on this mock draft going to Indianapolis, and I think this is a great fit. I think Notre Dame groomed some great offensive linemen, some great players, period. I think once you get to Notre Dame and then you move on to the next level, it's actually very valuable for your pro career, is how Notre Dame is. And Quentin Nelson's a great offensive guard. In my opinion, probably the best offensive lineman in the draft. So him going second behind Orlando Brown's a little different to me, but third overall pick as an offensive guard, you can't ask for much more than that. And I think Nelson would fit in with the Colts well. Colts are going through a coaching change right now. Pagano won't be returning. Also got a lot of questions up in the air about Andrew Luck. Luck. I've heard rumors on SiriusXM as well as other sources that Andrew Luck could possibly need another surgery. Still yet to come. So if he has another surgery, then that leaves you with not a lot of options for the Colts, and they could even turn around and go quarterback in the first round, depending on how severe the Luck injury turns out to be. But this mock draft's got Quentin Nelson going third to them, and I think that'd be a great pick for the Colts if Nelson falls to number 3. So then going to number 4, we got the Browns again. This pick's actually from Houston Texans, and this mock draft has Connor Williams going to Cleveland. I think this is a good pick for Cleveland. I think they need to get a lot of talent on that roster in a lot of positions. The 0-16 season obviously is not how they wanted their season to go, but if they could get talent first and then try to build around those talented pieces, they could definitely be something special. And it all depends how the draft falls and who's number 4 and if they need a quarterback. And obviously this mock draft had Josh Rosen going number 1 to them. So if Rosen goes number 1, then they do have a quarterback potentially, and then could start drafting offensive linemen. So the Connor Williams going to Cleveland is it's an okay fit. I don't have Connor Williams that high up on my board for offensive linemen either. But I could definitely see how this would fit for Cleveland, having Williams probably grooming right behind Joe Thomas, because Cleveland's left tackle Joe Thomas is definitely getting up there in age. He's a lot older than a lot of the guys on that roster, and in fact a lot older than a lot of guys in the NFL. And he was hurt this season for the first time in his career and missed some games. So gonna have to see what happens with Joe Thomas. See if he plays another year in 6th round in Cleveland. But yeah, they're definitely gonna need some help on the offensive line. Connor Williams, solid pick. Then number 5, we're going to the Denver Broncos, and this draft has Courtland Sutton going to Denver. And this pick kind of blows my mind a little bit, because I think if you're going to go wide receiver in the 1st round, I think if Calvin Ridley's on the board, you got to take Calvin Ridley. That's got to be the wide receiver you go to. But this draft's got Courtland Sutton going to them number 3. Courtland Sutton, don't get me wrong, is my number 2 wide receiver. I think he's extremely talented. I watched him play at SMU, and he will be a talented player in the NFL, but I just think Calvin Ridley's so much more talented and has so much more potential. But, Denver's had an interesting season. A lot of ups and a lot of downs. Obviously, with the number 5 pick, you got a lot of downs. And obviously, they need help at wide receiver. I think they need to do something in free agency at least for quarterback. Paxton Lynch is not going to be the answer at quarterback. Neither is Trevor Siemian. So they're going to need to address a lot of positions on offense. Obviously, they have a great defense, which is what led them to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. And they just need those answers on offense. And potentially, I don't think it'll take a lot to turn Denver around. I think Denver has the pieces, and now they just need to piece them together. So I think if they go, this draft has Courtland Sutton, and that's just an interesting pick to me because they got Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. So unless one of them are leaving this offseason, which is also potentially happening, I don't see wide receiver being that big of a necessity for Denver. But hey, Courtland Sutton, if that's what they want, if that's what this mock draft has them going, then that's what they got them going. I mean, I think it's an interesting pick to say the least. So let's go to number 6. How about the New York Jets? And they get their boy. And this mock draft has Sam Darnold going to New York Jets. And in my opinion, this is a likely pick that will happen, and this is a likely pick that should happen. Sam Darnold is definitely the number 2 quarterback on the board, right behind Josh Rosen. In terms of talent and leadership, a lot of questions are up in the air because of how Darnold controlled the ball this season. A lot of interceptions, a lot of turnovers. A lot of people thought maybe he would even stay at USC for an extra year, but turns out he's said he's coming out for the draft. And with number 6, if the Jets could get Darnold, that would be great for them because they need a lot of help with quarterback. I mean, Josh McCown actually had a stellar season for who he is. For who he is, he had a stellar season, and he could walk, he could stay, he could be a backup on any roster. Who knows? It's always Josh McCown. I feel like he's always up in the air with his decisions. So Sam Darnold, if he falls to number 6 for the Jets, that would be a win for New York. So yeah, here we go. Number 6, New York Jets, Sam Darnold. Okay, I can see it. Let's go down to number 7, though. We got the Tampa Bay Bucks, and this draft has Bradley Chubb from NC State. Chubb is a guaranteed first-round pick. Guaranteed top 10 pick, I've heard. One of the most talented defensive players in the draft. And this draft's got him falling to number 7. This draft's interesting for me on defense because I think there's a lot of talent and a lot of talented positions. I think you got to look at safety. You got Minkah Fitzpatrick from Alabama. I think he should be a top 10 pick. I think Derwin James from Florida State should be a top 10 pick. And those are 2 safeties, and Tampa Bay needs help on defense, defensive end. I mean, they got Gerald McCoy on their D-line, who's getting up there in age. Adrian Claiborne actually left. He went to the Atlanta Falcons this season. So Tampa Bay's got a lot of questions. And I guess this mock draft has Bradley Chubb being one of their answers. I don't see it. I think Arden Key, the defensive end from LSU, I think he's probably the most talented edge rusher in this draft. But Bradley Chubb, not a bad pick. I think he should go top 15 at the least, top 20. But But yeah, Tampa Bay, this draft, mock drafts, got them going with Bradley Chubb, number 7. Let's move on to Chicago, and very interesting pick here. They got James Washington from Oklahoma State going to Chicago, and this pick, interesting to me, because last year, obviously, Chicago Bears took Mitchell Trubisky. They let him play this season. It was okay. It's a typical Chicago Bears season. Washington, though, the wide receiver from Oklahoma State, I do like Washington, talented wide receiver. I think he's going to be a first-round pick as well. Still blows my mind that Calvin Ridley is not a top 2 pick for wide receiver in this mock draft. I mean, this mock draft's from CBS Sports. These are people who know what they're talking about. But Calvin Ridley not being a top, in my opinion, Calvin Ridley should be a top 5 pick. And this one doesn't even have him be one of the first 2 wide receivers. This one has James Washington going 2nd and going 8th overall to Chicago. I think Chicago should probably go wide receiver in the draft. They definitely need a lot of help in their wide receiver core because they lost Alshon Jeffrey. Kevin White isn't who they thought he would be. They need help at wide receiver. They need talent, period. And Mitch Trubisky, I think, is a great quarterback. Don't think he's a Hall of Famer. Don't think he's going to win you 10 games a year. But he has potential. He has potential, and that's what Chicago wants. James Washington, though, iffy pick for me. Iffy pick. Definitely go wide receiver if you're Chicago. Don't know about James Washington. And here we go in number 9. Let's go down to the San Francisco 49ers. And this mock draft has Saquon Barkley going number 9 to San Francisco. I think this pick's interesting. Penn State, they got a good one. Saquon Barkley is arguably pound for pound one of the strongest players in college football. Best running back in college football. And 49ers got Jimmy G. They got Jimmy Garoppolo. They think they found their answer at quarterback. Who can blame him? Last 5 games he started for them, won all 5. Barkley and Jimmy G could be a dangerous combo if you really stop and think about it. And just interesting, very interesting. And this pick, I think would be good for San Francisco. I don't know if Saquon Barkley is going to fall to number 9. He's got NFL caliber strength. I don't know if this will happen, but definitely an interesting pick to say the least. Scrolling down to number 10, we got the Oakland Raiders and Roquan Smith from Georgia. I think Oakland now today announced that John Gruden's going to be their head coach for the next 10 years on a $100 million deal. They need help. They got Navarro Bowman from San Francisco this year at linebacker, but besides that, not much, besides Khalil Mack, obviously. They lost their safety, Reggie Nelson, so Oakland needs some help. And Roquan Smith, I think, is one of the best linebackers in this draft. I like him from Georgia. I think he's got NFL caliber tackling, NFL caliber speed and strength. Obviously, I give him a couple of years to develop, and I could see him being a special player in the NFL, period. I don't think it matters where he plays. Didn't think he would be a top 10 pick, but hey, this mock draft's got him going number 10 to Oakland. Okay. So number 11, this pick is interesting to me. Minkah Fitzpatrick from Alabama, who I think is one of the most talented safeties in the draft. Personally, I have him as my number 2 safety, but probably top 5 overall players just because that's how talented he is. And the Dolphins, the Dolphins. Where do I begin with these guys? They definitely need help, and they need help in a lot of different positions. Xavier Howard had some flashes this year where he looked like he could be one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, which is rare. You don't feel like that when you're talking about the Dolphins, and especially when you're talking about Xavier Howard. But he had 2 games where he had 4 interceptions, and it was a pick 6 was one of them, and 2 of them were off of Tom Brady. That's incredible. That's an incredible stat line to say you picked off Tom Brady twice in the same game. I don't know. Minkah Fitzpatrick, definitely pair him alongside with Rashad Jones and TJ McDonald. And Rashad Jones on the downside of his career. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. He's getting up there in age. You put Minkah Fitzpatrick back there, then you got something special. Then you really got something special for him. And need a lot of help on offense too, though, man. It pains me to see a mock draft and potentially a real draft where the Dolphins stay away from the offensive line issues and draft elsewhere in the first round. My opinion, Billy Price, the offensive lineman from Ohio State, would be a perfect fit for the Dolphins. Also would be a great guy to go to with number 11. But this mock draft has Minkah Fitzpatrick going there. Interesting to say the least. I definitely think that Billy Price is a much better choice, personally. But Fitzpatrick, if he falls to number 11, which I doubt will happen. I doubt he will fall to number 11. He's a top 5 pick in my opinion. Then yeah, definitely snag him because he is the more talented player. But they just need a lot of help in a lot of positions. Moving on to number 12, Cincinnati Bengals taking Baker Mayfield from Oklahoma, the freaking Heisman winner, going number 12. Interesting pick to me. Bengals decided that they're going to keep Marvin Lewis, their head coach, for another couple of years and be mediocre for another couple of years. I don't know what Cincinnati's thinking. But going quarterback for the Bengals in the first round is interesting to me. I don't think that's I think Dalton, if you give him the right tools, Andy Dalton can be a special quarterback. I don't think you need to replace him. I don't think you need to groom for another one because I think Dalton can stay there for another 5 years and win games for them. But Baker Mayfield is just such an interesting player to me because I normally like quarterbacks who have a history of winning. I think if you win in college and you win in high school, when you go to the NFL, if all you know is winning, that will carry over. I think you're going to be a winner. But something about Baker Mayfield just doesn't hit me right. I don't think he's got the raw talent to be a NFL player that's going to light the world on fire. I think he'll be a backup quarterback in the NFL. I see him maybe getting his chance to start a couple games and then losing that opportunity. I don't think Baker Mayfield's going to be a starter in the NFL that lights the world on fire by any means, and I don't think he's going to be the answer for the Bengals, certainly. So, interesting pick. Don't see Baker going 12. I don't think he deserves to go in the top 15, but hey, that's just me. So let's go to number 13. We got Josh Allen, the quarterback from Wyoming, who had all the hype in the world this offseason. Before the college football season, they thought Josh Allen was going to be the greatest quarterback the NFL has ever seen, and then the college season happened, and a lot of people don't see that anymore. They see a mediocre quarterback at best, and that was in college. Obviously, they think he still has potential to develop into something special. First round talent, I think yes. 13th overall talent, I think maybe. I don't know what Washington's going to do with Kirk Cousins, if they franchise him again, if they let him walk, if they give him a monster deal. I don't know what Cousins wants to do. To me, he's one of those guys who's hard to read. I can't tell if he wants to stay in Washington. I can't tell if he wants to leave, if he wants to get traded, if he minds the franchise tag, what he wants to do. I don't think Washington needs a quarterback, unless Cousins leaves. So let's say Cousins stays. I don't think they should go quarterback 13th overall. I think they should definitely go defense. Defense is what's going to get you to the championships. Defense is what's going to win you games, especially in the NFC East. Interesting pick, but Josh Allen 13th overall. Then we move down to Green Bay, and this one has Derwin James going number 14 to the Green Bay Packers. I like this pick. Don't think Derwin James is going to drop to 14. Oh, sorry. In my opinion, Derwin James could be he's in my top 5. He's a top 5 pick, and at the beginning of the season, many people even talked about him being the first pick. So, Derwin James going number 14 in Green Bay. Hey, if that happens, great for Green Bay. Great for the Packers. That's a great pick, but I don't think it will. I think Derwin's going to be gone at the very least by the 8th pick of the draft, and if he's not gone by then that's a shame because he is definitely one of the most talented players in this draft. Green Bay needs some help on defense. Offense, they have Aaron Rodgers. Enough said. Defense, secondary is interesting. Secondary seems to change a lot for Green Bay. A lot of moving pieces. Linebackers seem to stay the same. So, Derwin James, that fall is great for Green Bay. Number 15, here we go, Arizona. They got Mason Rudolph going to Arizona Cardinals, straight from Oklahoma State. This is another interesting pick to me. I actually like Mason Rudolph. I think he's the third best quarterback in the draft. Him or Lamar Jackson, right behind Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen. Rudolph's got a lot of arm talent, which I like, and I think that's how you determine who's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL versus who's not going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. Russell Wilson's got both, so I don't like when people tell me that, oh, well, you can be a mobile quarterback and be in the NFL. Look at Russell Wilson. Well, Russell Wilson can also throw the ball downfield. He is not an inaccurate passer, to say the least. Mason Rudolph, however, though, is definitely a pocket passer. He can chuck the ball downfield. I like Rudolph. I think he's got a lot of arm talent. Arizona, Carson Palmer just announced that he's retiring. I'm still waiting on Larry Fitzgerald. From what I've heard around from my sources is that Larry Fitzgerald's probably going to stay for this season. He's not retiring just yet. He'll still be playing for Arizona next year. And that Mason Rudolph would be a good pick. I don't know if he's a 15th overall pick. I don't think that talent's there to be 15th overall, but I think Mason Rudolph would be a good pick for Arizona. I think he fits their scheme well. Bruce Arians also announced that he's retiring, so there's a lot of changes going on in Arizona. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, Mason Rudolph, 15th to Arizona. Let's look at 16th, and oh man, I don't even want to try to pronounce his name, but it's the linebacker from Oklahoma, Okoronkwo. That's all I'm gonna say. And watched him play against Georgia this past weekend. He had a great game. He's a tackling machine. Outside linebacker position, it would have to probably be a 4-3, and Baltimore runs a 3-4, so this is an interesting pick for me. But I could see him fitting in a 4-3 defense and being the outside linebacker just because of how good his tackling is. A big guy, strong guy. Terrell Suggs is getting older, so potentially you pair him with Terrell Suggs and let him try to develop and learn leadership and learn everything that Terrell Suggs has to offer, and then he can be a special player. So interesting pick, 16th overall. I like it. I like him. Okay, going to pick 17, Los Angeles Chargers with Colton Miller from UCLA, the offensive tackle. Miller, I think, is an underdog. Not a lot of people have been talking about him for this draft coming up. Interesting pick. I think McGlinchey's got to go pretty soon here from Notre Dame. He's a talented offensive lineman. I haven't heard too much from Colton Miller. Haven't watched too much film on him, so I can't really make a judgment here. But the Chargers do need help on offensive line. Defensive line is definitely solidified with Bosa and Melvin Ingram. Linebacker core solidified. They got good secondary players. Wide receivers, they have Keenan Allen, Travis Benjamin. So offensive line, just solidify that for Los Angeles, and we can be talking about a playoff team next year. Going to 18, the Seattle Seahawks. Going offensive tackle in the first round from Western Michigan, Okorafor, if I said that right. Interesting pick for me, but definitely a logical one. Seattle had so much struggle with the offensive line this year, and if you give Russell Wilson a good offensive line, that'll really change the team around. And I think what needs to be talked about more is how good Russell Wilson did play this season without an offensive line, considering that he was scrambling around the entire time and trying to make plays basically without even looking the right direction because he was running backwards. And Russell Wilson definitely deserves a lot of credit for how he played this year, and he's a talented player. And I like this pick for Seattle. They should definitely 100%, no doubt, go offensive line in the first round. So then Dallas Cowboys, number 19, take Josh Jackson, the cornerback from Iowa, and I love this pick. I love Josh Jackson. I've been super high on Josh Jackson ever since I saw him play at the beginning of this season, and I think he's one of the most talented cornerbacks in this draft. It depends where you put Derwin James and Minkah Fitzpatrick, if you put them at a cornerback or safety, but Josh Jackson is questionable to be the best corner in the draft. He played so well against so many big opponents this year. In my mock draft that I did for the Dolphins, I had him going in the second round of Miami. That was definitely a wish of mine, and I hope that comes true. I think Josh Jackson is a stellar player, and Dallas definitely needs a lot of help. This season was crazy for Dallas, losing Ezekiel Elliott to suspension, losing a lot of their offensive line to injuries, which just crushes a team. And you could really tell the difference when Dallas didn't have Tyron Smith in the lineup, their star left tackle. Dallas just needs a lot of help on defense, especially in the secondary, especially in the linebacker core. Sean Lee, who knows what he's going to do next year. So Josh Jackson definitely would be a valuable pick for Dallas Cowboys. I think that would be a great decision. Let's move on. So number 20 overall, they have Detroit Lions taking Darius Geis from LSU, who has been a super talented running back. I like how Geis plays. I like his speed. I like his catching ability. He's extremely talented. Detroit, on the other hand, needs a lot of help in a lot of positions as well. Offensive line's interesting. Matthew Stafford has just freaking been throwing the ball like crazy ever since he's been in the league. Stafford's arm talent makes up for a lot of the issues, I think, in Detroit, and I think they're kind of overshadowed because of how talented Matthew Stafford is. But their running back positions, they haven't had a 100-yard rusher in a game in, I think, 4 seasons is the stat I saw. So, if they think Geis is the answer, then go for it. Personally, I don't know where I have Geis. He's a little up in the air on my end. I don't know if he's my number 2 running back behind Barkley. I don't know if he's my number 5. Depends on what Damian Harris does from Alabama, Bo Scarborough. So we'll have to wait and see for my running backs. But Detroit definitely needs some help in the backfield. Number 21 overall, Tennessee Titans taking Marcus Davenport from UTSA on the defensive end. Tennessee in the playoffs for the first time in a decent time. And Tennessee needs help on defense in a lot of different ways. Also need a lot of help on offense. Their wide receiver core is interesting to me. It's definitely one of the most I don't know how to say it. Just random. Random would be my word to use. Wide receiving cores in the NFL. Tight ends up in the air. Offensive line. Tennessee has solidified a good offensive line. Taylor Lewan's played great. Jack Conklin. They got a lot of talent there. Defense does need the help, though. Obviously, Kevin Byard, the safety for them, has played well. He had led the league in interceptions this season, so I like that for Tennessee. I like their secondary. But it's interesting to see where they'll go in this draft. I think Marcus Davenport is probably a logical pick for them and probably close to what they will be selecting in this year's NFL draft. So Buffalo Bills, they have Maurice Hurst not from defensive tackle. He's from Michigan. Kyle Williams is likely to play his last year for Buffalo. Their stellar defensive tackle. They're going to need help in a lot of different positions, but this year they've been able to make the playoffs. We'll see how they do this coming Saturday, I believe they play, or Sunday. We'll see how they do. They're going to need help in defensive tackle next year if Kyle Williams retires. And Maurice Hurst is a talented player. I like him from Michigan. I think he would be a good fit for them. I think he fits their DNA well. And let's move on to Atlanta. Atlanta, they have for the 23rd overall pick going Harrison Phillips, defensive tackle from Stanford. I haven't heard much about Phillips. I think it's interesting that Atlanta would go D-line in their draft. I think they have some gaps in their offensive line that they could work on. I think they have some gaps in their linebacker core that they could work on that would help more than a defensive tackle. But Harrison Phillips going 23rd overall to Atlanta, interesting to me. But yeah, I could see it happening. So with the 24th pick, and obviously all these picks are projected based on how the playoffs work out, they have the Saints taking Tremaine Edwards from Virginia Tech, the linebacker, who actually has a brother who is also entering the draft this year from Virginia Tech, and he's a safety. But they have the linebacker going to New Orleans, and I think New Orleans should definitely go defense in this year's draft. And it was kind of weird because this season the Saints played so great, and they also had a great defense. And most of the time you don't say those two things together, the Saints and a good defense. But this year their defense actually really turned it around. Of course, a lot of that can be contributed to the rookie Marshawn Lattimore, the cornerback, how well he's played. They actually had 3 stellar rookies with Alvin Kamara, the running back, and Ryan Ramczyk, the offensive lineman. All 3 of those rookies played super well, and all 3 of them are in contention for Rookie of the Year. I like the Saints going defense in the first round. Edmonds is a talented player from Virginia Tech. I like how he plays linebacker. I think he would be a good pick for New Orleans. And then Jacksonville, with the potential number 25 pick, they have them going Calvin Ridley with the 25th overall pick from Alabama, and I can't believe that Ridley has slid all the way down to 25th overall. In my opinion, this is CBS's sports draft, and this is a mistake in having Ridley go all the way to 25th. I think Ridley is literally the next wide receiver to change the game. I think he will be one of the best wide receivers you'll see in college football. I'm really high on Calvin Ridley. I think he deserves to go top 5 in the draft, potentially even top 10. I think you put him on your football team and he will turn your team around. That's how much of an impact he'll have. I think he can make a poor quarterback look great. I think his route running ability is the best in the draft. His catching ability is the best in the draft. His speed is great. I just like Calvin Ridley a lot. And I think wherever he goes, he'll be a difference maker. He'll be an impact player. He'll definitely be a starter. And if he goes to Jacksonville, man, that's scary to think of. That's scary to think that Jacksonville could have Calvin Ridley lining up that wide receiver with all the talent they have. So the 26th pick would be the Chiefs in this projection, but we're actually going to give it to the Buffalo Bills because of the trade. And they have Lorenzo Carter, the defensive end, kind of edge rusher, outside linebacker from Georgia. Carter, I think, is a talented player. I think we talked about the Bills earlier, potentially losing Kyle Williams on defense, so they're going to need help. They do have a lot of age on their defense, so Definitely would draft defense in the first round if you're Buffalo. I like this pick. I think Carter's talented. I think this would be a good fit for Buffalo. So moving on to number 27, the Los Angeles Rams. We have Malik Jefferson from Texas. This linebacker I really like. He was talked about being one of the best linebackers in the draft. I think he fits the Rams. I think wherever he goes, he'll probably start in his rookie season. He's super talented linebacker, super good tackling, super strong. I like the way he plays, smart, football knowledge, and I just think he's a great player. So I like this pick going 27th overall. Number 28, we have Anthony Miller, the wide receiver from Memphis. My opinion, probably the second or third best wide receiver in this year's draft behind Ridley and Courtland Sutton. I think Anthony Miller is a great player. He played great for Memphis this season. They had a great season for being Memphis. I could see him going late in the first round. That's a good little spot for Anthony Miller. And talented wide receiver. I think this is a good fit. And if he goes to Carolina, a team that really needs help when it comes to receiving, I can see it working well. So the 29th pick overall, we have the Steelers going with Denzel Ward, the cornerback from Ohio State. I like this pick a lot. I think Steelers are definitely going to need some help on defense, especially with all their losses when it comes to edge rushers and potentially even Ryan Shazier, which is crazy to think about. Prayers up for Ryan Shazier. I just hope he can play football one day again. But more importantly, I hope he can just live a normal life. I think cornerback's a position of need for the Steelers, and we've seen that before. They even made a trade this past offseason to get Joe Hayden, who's actually played well for them. If they get Denzel Ward, they can develop him in their system. I think he could be a stellar player for the Steelers, so I like this pick, especially being an Ohio State player. I think he would fit well there. For the Eagles' 30th pick, they got Mike McGlinchey from Notre Dame, who I think is probably the best offensive lineman in the draft, right behind Quentin Nelson, who's also from Notre Dame, which is crazy to think about. They have him going all the way at number 30, and Philadelphia if he goes to Philadelphia, pairing him with Lane Johnson. Jason Peters is getting up there in age. He's near the end of his career. I like it. I think it's a good fit. I think it'd be a good pick for Philadelphia if they can get McGlinchey 30th overall. Great for them, and that would make this team even scarier than what it already is. 31st overall is where they have the Patriots going, so I assume they have them losing the Super Bowl. Rashad Evans, the inside linebacker from Alabama. Go ahead, put him with Dante Hightower, who's also from Alabama. How fitting is that? It could be a scary defense if you put Rashaan Evans there. He's a talented player from Alabama. I like the way he plays. Smart linebacker, hard-hitting, talented, and I just like Evans. I think that would be a great pick for New England, and definitely need the help on defense. This team has all the offense in the world, but just can't seem to ever find exactly what they need on defense. So maybe Evans could help them out where they need the help. And then our last pick we're going to do for this live stream is the Minnesota Vikings going Will Hernandez from UTEP. I like this pick. I think Hernandez is a very talented offensive lineman. I like the idea of the Vikings winning the Super Bowl. That's funny to me. I mean, anything could happen, especially with the Super Bowl being in Minnesota. How fitting would that be, and how special would that be for that city? But yeah, Will Hernandez, the guard from UTEP. If he falls all the way to number 32, that'd be a hit for Minnesota, and definitely would be a great pick. I like Hernandez. He's talented. Probably my number 3 offensive lineman. This would be a great pick. Minnesota's got the quarterback potentially in Case Keenum of the future, which is crazy to think about. Definitely have the defense. Love Minnesota's defense. Super talented. So going with offensive line, which is where they seem to have the needs. Would be a great pick for them. Great pick. So anyways, guys, I wanted to test out this live stream, kind of see how it works. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at things I can improve on, see how it turned out. And if anybody's watching or whoever watches this, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And I'm going to check out this live stream, see what I can improve on. And thanks for watching.